All right, so I had a couple comments on the other video about both the sequence and the event triggers, so I wanted to do another quick video on this level, which basically what will happen is when you collect 3 coins, it will open this door and you'll be able to go to the end of the level. So I wanted to explain each part of this. Hopefully this answers a couple of the comments that I got about event and sequence. First of all, somebody asked about a sound of like the player walking or like footsteps. Um, Personally, I wouldn't do that, but what I would do is, well, the reason I wouldn't do it is because it can get kind of messy if you're using the event trigger because you can have an event of like left push or left release. But then if you did that, the walking sound would be happening even if the player wasn't moving or if you were in the air, just as long as you're pushing down on the left key or like the right key. So what I've seen most platformer levels do is they'd have this where the event is just any type of landing and then it will have this sound effect play. So the event triggers group 1 and this sound effect is group 1 spawn trigger multi trigger and it's just this footstep which I added reverb to it so that it sounds like you're in a room, which I don't know why it's playing, but it'll play when I do the level. So this is what it sounds like. Next would be the coins. So every single one of these coins is set up like this. It enables group 2 when you collect the coin. The coin isn't tied to any group or anything like that. It just enables group 2. And group 2 is this sequence trigger right here. And I have the sequence trigger set to spawn multi-trigger. And what it does is, I'll just redo this right here so you can see. It will spawn group ID 3, but I want it to spawn it 2 times. And then the third time that you collect a coin, it will spawn group 4, and it'll only spawn that once. So it'll go 3, 3, 4. Which means when I collect 2 coins, it'll spawn group 3, and then when I collect the 4th coin, it'll spawn group 4. So all that group 3 is just this sound of the coin being collected. And then group 4 is a little more complicated. I'll show what happens and then I'll explain what it means. So 1 coin, 2 coins, 3. And now I can get to the end of the level, which is, I'll explain that at the last point of the video. First I want to explain this. So the first thing that happens, group 4, all of these triggers are set to group 4 and that's it. So the first thing is just, this doesn't need to be multi-trigger either because this is only happening once. This is just the sound like, hey, you collected all the coins. Then, since I'm doing a little cinematic of this door opening, I have options and I just disable player 1 controls. So you can't move at all when this is going on. Next, I'm just moving group 5 and making it last 3 seconds, going up by 30. That's just lifting the gate. Then this is the camera controls. So this is also pretty useful, especially for things like when you collect enough coins. So I'm zooming in to 1.5 and then I am setting static on group 6. And this duration tab is just how long does it take to get to that point of that state for the camera. This guide trigger, I have this set to group 6. So what happens is group 6 becomes the center of the camera with this static trigger. And then I set the zoom to be the same as this zoom trigger. So then it shows me this green line and this orange line. It's showing me a preview of what the player's camera will look like when the camera is zoomed this far in and then static is set to this guide. So that's kind of how you use that zoom, static, and then guide. Then it will play this sound, which is just the wheels rotating. It'll just play that for a couple of seconds while the gate is lifting to give, a little bit of immersion. And then excuse me, immersion. Then group 7, so this is group 4, it spawns group 7 after a delay of 2 seconds. So this is all happening here. The camera zooms over here for 2 seconds, and then group 7 activates, which is this stuff over here. So what I'm doing is I'm re-enabling the player 1 controls, and then I'm setting the zoom back to 1, and I'm checking this box here to exit static. So then everything goes back to the player. I'm just going to set this as ease out so it looks a little smoother. So that is how the gate works. I'll just show it one more time. So 1, 2, 3. Hopefully that makes a little more sense now. And then the end trigger, this is the last part. So I have an end screen that will pop up. It's set to group 10. So at the beginning of the level, I just set group 10 as alpha 0. And now what I do here is on the end, I'll play a sound effect, and I'll alpha group 10 back to 1 so that you see the end screen. And what I have here, so I have a star that's set to group 9, and then I have an end trigger. So what the end trigger does is I made it touch trigger, so it's like when the player touches this end trigger, the level will just end. And I said no sound effects, and spawn ID is 8 and target position is 9. So spawn ID is just when the level ends, or when this trigger gets hit, it will spawn group 8. And then the player will fly up to group 9, and that's where it will like despawn and end the level. So this star is group 9. So basically when the level ends, the player will go flying to this star because it's group 9, and then it will activate these two triggers, which are both group 8. So the only way to see the end screen though is to play the level. So hopefully this kind of explained a couple of things that you guys were asking about in the comments. I know someone wanted to know how to get things to move with the sequence trigger, and someone wanted to know, hey, if I collect a certain amount of coins, can I have more things happen? So this is kind of how you get that to happen. You would just set, all of these are set to group 4, which is the last thing that happens when you collect the third coin. And if you wanted to do more coins, you would just say, say group 3, let's say I want to collect 5 coins. So I would make the count 4 and then add group 4 at the end like that. And so I just want to add a couple more coins here just so that, just so that this actually works. And now I'll demo the level, but before I do that, thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you want to see anything else, and here we go.